Hey, I'm Christiane from Victory Makes, and we're here in Kensington Market in Toronto today to look for some upcycled fabric to make some mittens because winter is coming. And like in Game of Thrones, it gets freaking cold here in Canada, and maybe where you are too. So because it's gonna start getting really cold here, I know that I'm gonna need some mittens, and I love to make these for friends and family because they make a really beautiful Christmas present. So I figured you guys might be interested in looking at how to find the right kind of materials to upcycle sweaters and leather into a pair of mittens that will be warm and super functional for winter to get you through the coldest days. So I'm going to take you over to one of my favorite vintage shops in Kensington where I always have luck looking for these kinds of materials, and I'm going to show you how to look for the right kind of sweater, the right kind of leather, and if you're interested in adding a little bit of fur to the cuff, what you need to think about in looking for recycled fur. And then we'll have all of the materials we need for the outer layer of the mitten. And once we have those three things, we're on our way to making a beautiful pair of mittens. All right, let's go over to Shoney's. So here we are at Shoney's. This is the little vintage wonderland where you're bound to find something that you love and everything that you don't need. Okay, so I know I said sweater, but I'm seeing this really nice boucle wool cape. So this would be perfect for the surface of the mitten. It's super soft and it's really warm. What we're gonna end up doing with the sweaters when we find one anyway is to felt the sweater because we want to make the fabric more dense and therefore warmer. So if you end up finding a really nice wool that you like the look of that has like a dense structure, that's gonna be great for the surface of the mittens. So this is really cute, a really chunky cable knit sweater, but I'd be hesitant to use this because it's quite an open weave, and I would be a little fearful that once I cut this, that the yarns would separate too much, even though I'm going to be felting it. So I'm going to say that's a no. So let's keep looking. Actually, this is perfect. This has a really good structure of knit. It's nice and thick. The knit is closely knitted together. This is a natural fiber, so it's going to felt, and when that happens, it's going to thicken up. And I also really like the pattern on it. So, you know, if I consider how this is going to look as a mitten, this will be really cute. So this is a really great option. So how much is this? Oh, it's 15. Okay, that's not bad. How many mittens would I get out of this? Probably, I'd say 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 or 4 pairs. So $15 for 3 or 4 pairs of mittens. That's not bad. I'm gonna take this. So I wasn't so sure about this because brown isn't really actually brown is my color, who am I kidding? But I wasn't so sure about putting my little alpacas on my hand. It is cute, but what I really like is, imagine these, going this way, these little chevron things. That would look really nice. And maybe if I'm changed my mind and I want to put alpacas on my hand, I could do that. But this is really nice and soft. It is alpaca, and that would felt up really nicely and be really warm and really soft. This one's 20, so it's not super cheap, but it's not a bad option for such a beautiful fiber. I wanted to talk a little bit about fur. So if you find a fur object, a garment, or sometimes in vintage shops you can just find strips of fur that haven't been sewn into a garment if you're lucky. But this is just an example of some fur that's been worn out. So along the edges here, it's lost some of its luster. But there might be some good enough parts on this hat to salvage. But generally I'd say for small objects like this, I wouldn't choose it because it's too small. You might not have enough for 2 cuffs. So it's just better to spend your money on something where you have more fur to play with. So one thing you want to be careful about is finding a sweater that you really love the design of, but then you find out that it's acrylic. Acrylic is essentially a plastic fiber, so it's not going to shrink and it's not going to felt. So it's not going to be very warm because it's not a natural fiber like wool. So if you're able to find the content label, if you find something you love, go in and just see what is it made out of. This is, oh my god, faded shell. No idea. I can tell it's acrylic, it's not wool. Hopefully it'll tell you. If you're not sure, don't buy. Ooh, so soft. Oh, this is cashmere. Yeah. Be careful too. This one, see how stretchy that is? This is a really stretchy knit. I don't recommend it. I've found that with knits like this, the surface of the mitten just sort of gets baggy. So you want to have something that has a bit of structure. Alright, so I found this really amazing little fur bomber. And as much as, you're not thinking about, would I wear this garment? You want to just think about, would I like the color of this fur? Would it go with the sweater that I've chosen? Yes, it will. And yeah, like you just want to make sure that the quality of the fur is intact, that there's not chunks falling off. Sometimes the skin underneath the fur, if it's dried out, you'll find that the fur is shedding. So you just want to take a look and make sure everything's good. This is going to produce lots of different cuffs because we basically are just going to cut rectangles out of this, and this will have a lot of mileage. So this is $30, which is not a bad price for the amount of cuffs that this will garner. So I think I might get this one, but I'll keep looking to see if there's anything better. Alright, so over here I've got this really lovely, in my opinion, blanket that has already been essentially felted, I guess. It's just a really dense wool. And this is perfect. I could use this for both sides of the mitten and add a cuff to it, and that would be really cute. So another option for your fabrics is just a lovely, chunky, dense blanket made of wool or whatever natural fiber you end up finding. So you could also turn this into a garment, but we're on mittens today, so let's stay on topic, Okay. So this is awesome. This is a mohair blanket, and I've used this before to make mittens and it turned out amazing. You definitely want to felt this. I know it might feel like sacrilege throwing a mohair blanket in the wash, but for your purposes you want to make it just a little bit more dense than this, and it's going to actually shrink quite a bit and become really thick, and it's going to make a beautiful pair of mittens that you probably won't even need to add a lining to. You can if you want, but this would be great. I'm not super into this color palette, so I'm not going to go with this, but I find that these show up a lot in vintage shops, so if you're interested in this look, then keep an eye out. Alright, so here you've got a classic Christmas sweater, and while you might not like the look of it, or maybe you do, you might really like elements of it on the palm of your hand or this side of your hand. Let's say you liked these little motifs. That could be really cute. Or maybe, these little snowflakes with this as the edge near your wrist. That could be really nice. But this looks like Angora, and I would be pretty heartbroken to throw that in the wash and felt it. I've never felted Angora, but it would probably be really beautiful for mittens if you did it. So, you know, if you come across a sweater like this and it's a good bargain and you will never wear it and no one else you know will, I would say felt it and then turn it into mittens and give it a whole new life. It could be really beautiful. This is the gold mine for fur. These little jacket stoles are really great. So you can find these a lot of the time in vintage shops. These are designed to go over your winter coat. Back in the day, some people use them still, but because many people don't, they're pretty easy to find. And they're great because one of these is usually, I'd say, around $10 or $15. And one of them is also perfect for one pair of mittens. So if I just wanted to make one, all you're gonna need is one of these stoles. So then you're just gonna wanna find one that has a really lovely look. I mean, look how beautiful that is. Ooh, that's beautiful. You might even be able to get 2 pairs of mittens out of this for 15 bucks. I really like when the fur has a bit of shag to it. That's so beautiful. This one is a bit shorter and that totally would work, but just if you have the choice, I'd say go crazy. So now that I've found these, I'm gonna ditch this because in comparison, this is looking too short and patchy compared to my beautiful stole. So this is gonna lose.
And someone might want to wear this.
Yeah, and then I'm not ruining a really beautiful bomber jacket that some awesome fashionista would be really excited about. All right, so the last element that we need is the leather. So we can look at leather jackets. You can also, if you want a lesser amount of leather, you can look at the 1980s leather skirt section of your vintage shop. That is often cheaper and maybe less wasteful. You're gonna get a lot of leather in your leather jacket, depending on the size, but generally it's way more than you're gonna need for your mittens. So you can either, you know, have a lot of mittens in your future, or you can make all kinds of other things. You can make a handbag, you can make wallets, you can make all kinds of things. But anyway, let's go take a look and see what we find. Okay, so I'm not really looking at the style here, so you kind of need to get that out of your head. It's about how much leather you're gonna get for your buck, and also the panels, the sizes of the panels in the leather. Let me get rid of this. What you'll find with leather jackets, it's that the leather is sewn in panels, so smaller chunks. I'm not looking at the style of the jacket here. I'm not so worried about that because I'm going to be taking it apart. So I'm just going to be looking at the price and the panels. This one's great because it's got really big panels here. You can also use the sleeves, but I don't love the look of this leather so much. It's a little too matte for my taste. It almost looks artificial. So I'm just gonna look for something that I like the look of the leather and that the panels are big enough for me to, you know, get a lot of use out of. You also want to make sure that the leather has some density, that it's not too thin. This is great. But just feel all of the jackets and start to see the difference between them. This one is not real. Is it? No, this is real leather, but it just, you know, you can see it just doesn't look very good. It's kind of crackled. Looks like an old 1970s shaft leather jacket. So I'm not into that look. This one, this is great. Look how big these panels are. You'll get a lot out of that. That's 50 bucks. This one's awesome. This is 30 bucks, and there's so much possibility for mittens here because there's huge panels, so that's a really good option. Right, okay, so here's an example of something you don't want, where you've got these panels that are smaller because you don't have these seams in your project. Okay, I found the brown leather section, and I think this is going to work a lot nicer than the black, because as much as black goes with everything and it's a really good color leather to have on hand, the brown is going to look so much nicer with these colors in my chosen palette. So this is a really deep, rich brown, and it's long, so there's lots of leather to work with. The panels are quite big, and I'll get a lot of use out of that. So, and it's 40, so it's a little bit more than the other one, but I think it goes better with what I'm working with. Yeah, I'm gonna get this one. All right, so I've got my stash here. I'm really happy with everything I've found. Look at this beautiful color palette. It's really soft, really earthy, and it goes really well together. And I'm gonna be able to make lots of pairs out of this. So the next thing I wanna do is just find a fabric that is gonna serve as the inner lining of the mitten. For that, I usually just get like a fleece knit sweater fabric, and that I can buy at the fabric store. And then I'm off to making the mittens. So in the part 2 of this video, I'm going to show you how to sew it all together. See you then!